right? And so we said, sure. You know, we're huge fans. So how many people are from Vernon County? I'm just curious. Awesome, awesome. How about La Crosse County? Whoa, nice. Crawford? This is awesome. All right. So I just want to thank everyone. I think we busted the seams on parking. I think we might be going to La Crosse County to pick up our cars. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, check us out. Follow us. We have concerts every year. Next year we have a bang-up roster of artists that are coming. And I built this barn specifically for music. So someone said, what's the deal with the, you know, the structure and everything? So I had a professor in college who said, if you build, no, this is exactly what he said. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be building a concert hall, but if you do, remember, double cube. And I went, double cube? He says, yeah. The inside has to be the volume of 2 cubes, and you will have the perfect acoustical space to perform in. And that's what this is. So it's 2 cubes, the volume, and anyone who's performed in here, so Adam, you haven't performed in here yet. Yeah, but I think they are. Yeah. And Adam from Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Yeah. And but this place is truly awesome for Americana and natural music. So come visit us next summer. I hope we have a crowd like this. This is just really up over the top. My son would say next level epic or epic next level. All right, so anyway, so welcome here. Have a great time. If you haven't visited maybe lately's across, the food is just spectacular. I mean, really spectacular. Anyway, my name is Wyatt. My wife's name is Monica. I'm not sure where she is. I think she might be hiding in the house. But thank you for coming out. Welcome very much. Simon, it's up to you, man.
Thank you, Wyatt. Thank you, everybody, for being here. What an unbelievable crowd. My name is Simon Rosenblum Larson. I'm the Wisconsin field organizer for the Friends of Bernie Sanders. I am a proud son of Wisconsin. I was born and raised in Madison, and I just want to say quickly thank you to our incredible hosts for this beautiful venue. Thank you to Wyatt and Monica for hosting us here. I was a professional baseball player for the Tampa Bay Rays, and when we were playing, I learned the power of the working class when we organized the first ever union of minor league baseball players. So I know that when we fight, our project here in Wisconsin is to build the grassroots power we need to take on the oligarchs. This means taking Derek Van Orden head on and holding him accountable. This means building a coalition of organizations ready to fight the oligarchy and take power back for the working class here in Wisconsin. So I'm going to get right to my asks for you today. We have 3. You can volunteer. You can join us or Rebecca Cook in the process of canvassing, phone banking, helping host more events like this, and building that grassroots movement to take on Van Orden and to take on the oligarch class. Our second ask is that you get organized. That means you join a union. That means you form a union in your workplace if you don't already have one. It means you join the groups in your community that are building that power that we need to fight back. My third ask is my biggest one, and it's to run for office. If you've ever thought about running for office, now is the time. Do not wait. We need working class people like you in this room representing us, not the billionaire class, not the oligarchy. So we are building this field operation right here in Wisconsin. I will be here. I will not be going anywhere. There are tables outside. There's people with clipboards. Let's get each and every one of you involved. Let's get you moving, and let's get you fighting. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage Adam Kramer. Adam Kramer is a certified crop advisor with roots in Crawford and Grant County. He's a professional agronomist, and he has a trophy case of awards that I had never heard of, but he's the USDA Conservationist of the Year and International Certified Crop Advisor of the Year. Please welcome to the stage Adam Kramer.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Simon. That was a lot more than I thought I was going to get today. So I'm here to talk about science a little bit and my background as a crop advisor working in this area. The driftless area is one of the most unique land features in North America, if not the entire world. This region really, because of its uniqueness, has a special place for me in my work. It's a place the glaciers didn't reach, so it also commingles the past with the present. It also happens to be the epicenter for soil loss in the continental U.S. We worked hard on farms in this region to head off the problem at the source. One big thing we've done to address this problem is to provide consultation and custom application of cover crops on tens of thousands of acres in this region. According to NRCS benchmark calculations, over a 3-year period, we preserved enough topsoil through our work to fill something like 65 miles of side dump trailers bumper to bumper. Thank you. Now imagine something like 65 miles of side dump trailers, which would be filling the southbound lane of Highway 35 from La Crosse to Prairie du Chien, clogging up that entire lane back to back to back. That's what we've saved here, not what we've lost. We lose much more. We have a long way to go. Many of these acres applied to cover crops in the driftless area are subsidized with EQIP funds through the NRCS. Millions of federal dollars have been deployed to take a proactive approach to watershed management in the driftless area. Without the partnership of government and private sector, this work would not have been possible. At one time, I could point to every field of cover in our region and know the farmer or know what was planted in that field because we either did it ourselves or we knew the farmer that did it. Today, it's much different. What started as an 800-acre pilot project has grown beyond what I once thought possible. Tens of thousands of acres are planted to cover each season, protecting our soil in the driftless. I believe in the science that suggests we need to change how we farm to better care for the land and water that we all share. I'm mindful of this change because often change is hard for our people. What first began as a conversation about food security has become a conversation about production systems. The hypoxia zone in the Gulf, the sediment load in our watershed, emissions, efficiency, biodiversity, stewardship, climate change. All these ongoing conversations involve agriculture and rural communities. I see now that we are all in this together. We need cooperative agreements to bring innovation to rural areas that move through the supply chain. And we need to be strategic so we don't waste resources trying to fix problems that could otherwise be prevented. These rural areas are full of hardworking, faithful people. We're in a position of leadership in topics of environmental stewardship, water quality, or the effects of a changing climate. We can do almost anything that is asked of us, but we need clear directives and demand signals so we can fit management practices to outcomes. These things take time and commitment from our community. Clean water and adequate nutrition are things that we can all agree are important. I believe in the folks in this room to continue to take up this task and do something about it. I'm here of my own fruition. I don't live in Ms. Cook's district anymore. and I have no intentions in the near term of relocating to Mr. Sanders' home state of Vermont. That being said, I'm a grassroots guy, and these are grassroots leaders. They spend a lot of time talking about issues that matter with the people doing the work. Most of us in the room understand the challenges and benefits of living in rural areas. Any of us involved directly in production agriculture understand the difficulties in turning a profit, especially in times like these. It all starts with us right here. These leaders are willing to show up at the least. I find this commendable, so thanks for being with us here today, Mr. Sanders, Ms. Cook, and to all your support staff that has made your presence possible. I want to thank you all for listening to my sermon of blood, sweat, and soil. And I want to thank the Sanders campaign for inviting me. It's been a great experience. Good luck to you all, and God bless. Our next speaker is Darren Von Ruden, an organic dairy farmer from 5 miles as the crow would fly from this site. He is also the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. Welcome, Darren, to the stage.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, Darren Von Ruden, Westby, Wisconsin, third generation organic dairy farmer. My son Brett and his wife Nicole are in the process of buying that from us right now, so we got the fourth generation with 2 beautiful granddaughters, and then 1st of July, my daughter bought my parents' house, which is also located on the farm. So right now I have 4 beautiful grandchildren running around. And that's really why I do what I do, because when you have the next generation on the farm wanting to farm, you want to be able to make sure that there's a future for them there. It's something that's getting harder and harder to do. When you look at today's economy, especially in farm country, we have the issues of the tariffs and what uncertainty that really has evolved into. We don't know if we should buy a tractor this year or if we can wait and do it later. If you listen to the experts, which there isn't too many of those, or there isn't very many people in DC that are listening to experts now anymore. So we need to do something about that. But the future does not look bright in farm country right now. You look at corn and soybean prices are dropping. Certainly if tariffs go into effect at the rates that they're going to be with some of our biggest trading partners, that just means more corn and soybeans are going to end up staying here in the United States, which depresses our prices. When was the last time anybody's grocery bill went down? Farmers' prices drop and you guys don't see that. It's very frustrating as a farmer to have to do that. That's why we need good people in DC that are going to go out there to fight for us. Looking at what happened under the, well, I'm going to say the BBB because I can't say some of the words that I've heard it called. But it certainly isn't a beautiful bill for small farmers across the state of Wisconsin, across the country, the U.S. The Local Foods Purchasing Assistance Program, or LFPA is what you maybe have heard it as, was a program that helped 189 farmers in the state of Wisconsin connect to the final consumer through less channels than what we most likely will have to do. President Trump cut that program. There's no more funding. Those 189 farmers this spring had to find new markets, some of which still have not found new markets for the produce, the fish, the meats, the dairy products that they were producing because of that action that was taken by the president. We need to make sure that we have common sense in DC. I hear it all the time from Republicans that there is common sense out there, but when somebody calls you a liar to your face, but he believes everything that Donald Trump says when the facts are not that, you would think that he would start to believe his own words, which he told me in a meeting in D.C., and I'm talking about Representative Derek Van Orden. He called me a liar to my face, and I asked him, well, do you believe everything Donald Trump says? And he didn't answer it exactly right away, but he did say, yes, I do, about 30 seconds later. So he had to think about it, which means that there's problems there. But we certainly need to look at, what's going on in the whole structure. As Simon said earlier, run for public office. I didn't have enough stuff to do, so I became the Clinton Township chairman this spring, so. And that's to keep my roots close and deep to home where they belong and trying to make sure that there's a good future. But also, we need to get out and be in front of folks like this. You need to talk to those neighbors that maybe don't agree with you politically, but ask them for their facts and where they come from, because if they're not getting their facts from 2 or 3 sources, they're probably not facts. We also need to make sure that we turn over the House and the Senate this next year. Not only here in the state of Wisconsin, but in Washington, D.C. We need to make sure that we don't have 2 more years of the chaos that we have right now. So in ending, I just want to say thank you all for showing up. Our next speaker is Rebecca Cook. My first get-together with Rebecca was after a farm meeting that we had with the Wisconsin Farmers Union, and she came up to me and introduced herself and said that she was going to be running for the 3rd congressional seat. And I said, well, congratulations. I'm supportive of you. Good luck. Let's have some conversations. Rebecca and I have been in contact, maybe not on a monthly basis, but certainly election year gets to be a more regular basis about the issues. And she really wants to make sure that she's talking the language. I believe she is. She's a homegrown Western Wisconsin resident. She's made some of her money through waitressing on those Friday nights when we have those good Friday night fish fries throughout the state of Wisconsin. So you know she knows how to work and get the job done. So with that, Rebecca Cook.
Wow. Well, hello, Vernon County. It is such a pleasure to be here today in the heart of the Driftless with the weather on our side. Thank you so much to the Sutherland family for this beautiful space that you've built here in Varofla. Appreciate you opening it up for us. If we haven't yet met, I'm Rebecca Cook, and I'm running for U.S. Congress to defeat Derek Van Orden. And I am so proud to stand here today with the endorsement and support of Senator Bernie Sanders in this race. We're coming together here today for an in-person town hall because Derek Van Orden refuses to hold one. As your Democratic nominee last cycle, we almost sent him packing and elected a farm kid from Western Wisconsin to the United States Congress. And in 2026, we have an opportunity to finish the job and send a working class voice to Congress that delivers for us, not special interests or party bosses. Last fall, we outperformed every Democrat on the ballot, garnering 9,000 more votes than the vice president and 5,000 more votes than Senator Baldwin. And we did that by showing up in rural communities that for too long have felt ignored or left behind by the Democratic Party. I chose to run for Congress because I have felt opportunities in America's dairyland continue to dwindle for years, from agricultural consolidation to losing rural healthcare access to the struggle to fund our public schools. And I know many of these challenges because I've lived them. In high school, we had to sell our cows because of the price of milk and competition with larger dairies. When we sold out and focused on beef cattle, it wasn't just losing a business, but a part of our traditions and our heritage and our way of life. My family has had a farm in this district for 150 years. And when I'm out talking to people at county fairs or at dairy breakfasts, which are a big part of our traditions here in Western Wisconsin, it doesn't matter what administration it is, Democrats or Republicans, farmers are always last. At the Pierce County Fair a few weeks ago, some felt the weight of tariffs that were really bearing down on them. But as one farmer named Tracy told me, she said, honestly, it's just always hard. It's so hard to tell the difference no matter who's in power. But we can push back. And we can push back, for starters, by getting a farm bill passed that works to support family farms. My opponent, Derek Van Orden, is on the House Ag Committee, and he's failed to do just that. We also have to stay on offense when it comes to foreign nationals buying our farmland. It's not just a food security issue, but a national security issue. And we can enforce antitrust laws to address all the hyper-consolidation in our ag industry and beyond. And Senator Sanders and I agree that monopolies have no place in America. They stifle opportunities for the small guys to compete and keep wealth concentrated in the hands of just a few big players. And it's not just antitrust law. Senator Sanders and I agree that our healthcare system is broken. In Eau Claire, we've already seen 2 major hospitals close, and with the passage of the reconciliation bill, we're likely to lose more in this region. Our rural hospitals already struggle to stay open because of Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates, and now that burden is going to double. I believe in expanding Medicare to cover vision, dental, and hearing. My mom who is here filming me in the front row like a mom does. Her and my dad, they go down to Mexico. They take a once-a-year vacation. And on that vacation, they get their dental work done because it's cheaper to do there than it is in our own country. And I want to see my parents and your parents and our grandparents to be able to age with dignity in place in our own country. I think folks know who have heard me speak before. You've heard about how my dad has been struggling with cancer. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2023. And when he went into Walgreens for the first time to get his cancer drugs, it was a $1,300 copay for a 1-month supply of one drug and an $1,800 copay for a 1-month supply of another drug. He ended up getting his medicine through Mark Cuban's Cost Plus. And I'm proud to say, I mean, it's unfortunate that that's the direction that he's had to go, but I'm proud to say that last month, he took his last chemo pill. So we're feeling good. Keep your fingers crossed for us. But my dad was in this position because of Washington in bed with Big Pharma. It's as simple as that. And that's why I've taken a no corporate PAC pledge. No one can influence me with their money on how I vote. I also come from a union family. I saw a few folks right in the back there with an engineer's hat on the top. I come from a union family, and I'm really proud of that. My brother is a Navy veteran who is very disappointed not to be here today. He is a huge Senator Sanders fan, but had to work at the fire station in Madison. My sister works for the teachers union in Minnesota. Thank you. And I'm very proud of the work that they do and the backing that I have from organized labor in this race. But in Wisconsin, our unions were gutted by the passage of Act 10, which I know this room knows very, very well. And in Congress, I'll work to pass the PRO Act to support workers' power to collectively bargain and undo the work of Scott Walker and his cronies. I think a lot of folks know that we're coming up to Labor Day soon, and I stand by unions in supporting the Davis-Bacon Act and registered apprenticeship programs. And Senator Sanders and I agree that the federal minimum wage has got to be increased to a living wage. We've got to break up monopolies and close tax loopholes for multinational corporations. I know that people in this room can relate to these stories. As I look around, I see a lot of familiar faces. And I know as we're sitting here, many of you have dirt underneath your fingernails from already doing chores this morning. I know that many of you are tired. It was a long work week, and the weekend has come, and you're caring for aging parents and rushing kids out of the house tomorrow for church. And you're worried about bills, making your rent, car payment, buying expensive groceries, getting gas, and even having a little money left over at the end of the month. The idea for so many of us of buying a house seems far out of reach. But I also know that people in Western Wisconsin are resilient. I know that you are the first to show up for a neighbor in need and bring a casserole for someone celebrating the birth of a new baby or mourning the loss of a loved one. When there is a problem in our community, we aren't waiting for someone else to come to fix it. We pull together. We start businesses. We join our county board. We step up. And we need, for once, the federal government to give a damn. We need results. I was out knocking doors last cycle in Viroqua. We had one of our cookouts that maybe some of you here have come to. But one of the things that I ask people when I'm out knocking doors is, what's keeping you up at night? And I think that's an important question. I think that a lot of politicians are taking cues from those annoying polls that you've probably received over text message or calls. I take my cues from listening to you. And that is why my platform is focused on lowering costs, making it easier to do business, protecting our agricultural heritage, and combating corruption. Growing up on a farm when it's 20 below, and it's not a 20 below day today, but folks know when it's 20 below, and the drinking cups are frozen over, you don't have a choice but to unthaw them and keep working. On a farm, you don't stop when you're tired. You stop when it's done. And I'll be that fighter for you when I'm elected to United States Congress. And that's why I'm honored today to have the endorsement and support of Senator Bernie Sanders and to share a stage with him. Bernie is no bullshit. He's been able to pass legislation in the fray of Washington while remaining true to his core values centered around the working class. His voice never wavers. I voted for him in 2016, and I remember so many of my friends did, people who didn't even like politics, because he was real. And his convictions are deep. He wants to know that if he's backing you, like he's backing me, that you've got a spine to stand tall on. So much of that is missing in politics these days. People are pandering to elitists and special interests, to party bosses. They've lost sight of why they actually ran in the first place and what their communities actually need. And after all these years, Bernie Sanders is still deeply grounded in this fight. And he is grounded not in well-placed talking points. It's just who he really is. And I'll let him speak for himself as I introduce America's working class fighter, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Vermont is considered to be one of the most rural states in America. But as I drove here to Viroqua, I kind of think of Vermont now as a major urban center. This is beautiful, beautiful country that you live in. And let me thank Wyatt and Monica Sutherland for allowing us to use this beautiful facility. Foreign Fields for their music. Adam Kramer for his remarks, and Darren Van Ruden for the work that he is doing in agriculture. And especially Rebecca Cook, because we're going to need her in Washington. What I want to do is to say a few words, and we're going to open it up for your questions and comments, but I wanted to say a few words about where I perceive America to be today and where I think we should be going into the future. And what I will be telling you is something that you don't see very often in corporate media, and you're not going to be hearing much from senators and members of Congress. Right now, you are living in an oligarchic society. Now, I am told by some pundits that the American people don't know what oligarchy is. I think they do. I was, for better or worse, actually worse, kind of pushed into the front row when Donald Trump was inaugurated. I was sitting about where you are sitting. Not a pleasant experience. And as some of you may recall, right behind Trump, sitting behind Trump, were the three wealthiest guys in America, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Zuckerberg. And then sitting behind them were another 13 billionaires that Trump had nominated to serve as heads of major federal agencies. And as I was sitting there, I was reflecting on American history and reflecting that way back in 1863, as some of you will remember from your history books, Abraham Lincoln went to Gettysburg, and he was there a few days after that terrible battle where thousands of Union soldiers had died to put an end to the abomination of slavery. And Lincoln stood there and he wrote this speech very quickly, and he said, looking out on that field, we're just a few days before people had died by the thousands. And he said, you know, we have, I'm paraphrasing, we have a vision of government. And our vision of government that these men did not die in vain for is to establish and maintain a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And as I sat at Trump's inaugural and I looked around, what it was clear to me is today we have a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. And what I can tell you, as someone who has traveled all across this country, is the American people will not accept oligarchy. We will not accept kleptocracy. We will not accept authoritarianism. So that is what the struggle is about right now. In America today, and you don't hear too much about it, so let me tell you, you have more income and wealth inequality in America today than we have ever had in the history of America. You have today one person, our friend Mr. Musk, who owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. Now, you know, it's a funny thing, and this has a lot to do with who owns the media. What we get outraged about, what we get upset about, what we're allowed to get excited about, all right? If you step back for a moment and you say that in America in the year 2025, in the richest country in the history of the world, you got one guy owning more wealth than half the households of America, that is an outrage. That is unacceptable. That is not what this country is about. But it's not just one guy. You have the top 1% today, top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 93%. You got CEOs of large corporations making 350 times more than their workers. The people on top today and have never, ever in the history of this country had it so good. What's going on for the working families of America? The truth is, and this is again what I'm trying to get across, is that the media doesn't talk about it, and my colleagues in Congress, by and large, don't talk about it. You are living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And yet today, in Wisconsin, Vermont, all over this country, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. All right, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, lived in a rent-controlled apartment. Family didn't make much money. All over this country, here in Wisconsin, in Vermont, all over, people are struggling, trying to figure out how they're going to feed their kids, how they're going to pay the rent, how they're going to pay for health care. And maybe, dear God, will we have a few bucks saved for when we retire so we can live with a shred of dignity. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. 60% of our people should not be living paycheck to paycheck. And let us also be honest about it and acknowledge where we are. Essentially, our economic and political systems are broken in terms of the needs of the working class. Let me talk about our political system, and Becca touched on this for a moment. For the oligarchs, for the people on top, owning the economy is not enough. We have more concentration of ownership, impacts agriculture, impacts every aspect of our lives. You name the industry. A handful of large corporations own it. They control the prices that we pay and what happens to workers. But it is not just the economy that they control. That's not good enough for them. They now own the American corrupt political system. All right, I want you to think about it. Not too many people talk about it, but I want you to think about it, and you decide in your own mind whether I'm right or I'm wrong. Ever since Citizens United, the worst decision the Supreme Court has ever made, what you have are billionaires with the freedom now to spend as much money as they want to elect their candidates they like, and defeat the candidates they don't like. In the last election, Elon Musk himself spent $270 million to help elect Trump. Does anybody vaguely think that this is what democracy is about? You have, it's not, and by the way, what happens when you donate $270 million to somebody's campaign? You get what you paid for. And Mr. Musk was appointed to run the United States government for 3 months, lay off thousands of federal employees, including 7,000 employees at the Social Security Administration, threaten his proposal was to lay off 80,000 employees at the Veterans Administration. Yeah, that's a real thank you to the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend this country. All right? And on and on. Thousands of workers, scientists who are helping us combat major diseases. So Musk got what he paid for. But what I want to say, it is not just the Republican Party. It is the Democratic Party as well. As some of you may know, I have helped lead in the Senate the effort to end all U.S. military aid to the Netanyahu government to stop the starvation of the children in Gaza. Now, I don't have to tell you what's going on in Gaza. Many of you know, and it's almost unspeakable, and it's just terrible. All right, we're talking about over 60,000 people who have been killed, mostly women and children and the elderly, over 140,000 wounded, including 18,000 children. What makes that war so despicable is that essentially U.S. taxpayers are funding it. And last I heard, the American people do not want to spend billions of dollars starving little children to death. Now, the good news is that in recent weeks and months, we have gotten more and more Democratic senators on board to say no more military aid to Netanyahu. But I will be honest with you, and tell you that the reason we don't have any Republican support at this point, or not enough Democratic support, has to do with super PACs like AIPAC. The point is, if we want to live in a democratic society, we have got to get rid of this terrible Citizens United Supreme Court decision. We got to get rid of super PACs. You know, some of you may remember Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for all others. It is messy. In this room, there are disagreements. But what every person here believes, and I believe most Republicans believe, that what this country is about, what people fought and died to maintain, is our right to disagree with each other, to run our own government. To understand that we live by the rule of law and that you don't always win. I have lost elections. I don't go around and say, oh, it's a fraud. I didn't lose. Sometimes you lose. That's what life is about. We live by the rule of law. That's what democracy is about. And we got to teach Donald Trump that lesson. All right, we're going to work hard to do our best every day to stop Trump's outrageous actions. But it is not good enough just to be against Donald Trump. We got to be for something. In my view, health care is a human right, not a privilege. And I want all of you to think hard. How does it happen in our great country where we have so many really smart, innovative people? We have all of this technology. Why do we remain the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child? Why are we spending, and this is an incredible fact, we are spending over $14,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country for health care. You got that? That's $56,000 for a family of 4, and yet we have 85 million Americans who are uninsured or underinsured. We have the lowest life expectancy of any major country on earth, and we have 60,000 people a year dying because they don't get to a doctor on time. So our view is not complicated. The goal of a healthcare system in a civilized democratic society is to provide care to all people in a cost-effective way. The ideas that I am talking about, that Becca is talking about, are not radical ideas. I know that the National Republicans will say, oh, these are radical fringe ideas. This is what the American people believe. But it's not just our healthcare system that is broken. And again, the richest country in the world is where you live. You tell me, think for a moment, why, when every psychologist who studies the issue understands that 0 through 4 are the most important years of intellectual and emotional development for a human being, right? We all know that. So I got politicians in Washington, they stand behind the flag and they, I love America, but somehow they do not love the children of America. Why in God's name are we giving $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%, and yet we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth? So when we talk about education, we're talking about living in a competitive global economy. We're talking about education as a human right. Again, not a radical idea to say that every child in this country should be able to go to a quality child care center at a cost that is affordable to their parents. Not a radical idea to say that our young people should know from their earlier stages that if they study hard, they can get a higher education regardless of their income, because we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Some people say, oh, making public colleges and universities tuition free. What a radical idea. Do you know that in the United States of America, 60, 70 years ago, major university systems like the City University System in New York, University System in California, and state colleges in Vermont and elsewhere were tuition free? It's not a radical idea to go back to where we were 60 or 70 years ago. It is not a radical idea to say that we should not be paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs so that 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford the medicine that their doctors prescribe. It is not a radical idea, as Becca said, to end this absurdity in Washington where we have a starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Let us make that minimum wage a living wage, at least $17 an hour. Not a radical idea to say that we should not remain one of a tiny number of countries around the world that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. You could tell a lot about where a country is at by how it treats its most vulnerable people. In this case, the elderly and the children. In America today, again, I keep saying this, the richest country in the history of the world, 22% of seniors are trying to survive on $15,000 a year. How does anybody survive on $15,000 a year, let alone a senior who has often has health problems? All right. Now, we got Republicans there in the Congress who think we should cut Social Security. Well, I've got a somewhat different idea. I think we should expand Social Security benefits. And it is not hard to know what to do. Right now, somebody makes $10 million a year, somebody makes $186,000 a year, they pay the same exact amount into the Social Security Trust Fund. If you lift that cap, scrap the cap, you can bring substantial sums of money into the Social Security Fund, raise benefits, and increase solvency. And what is certainly not a radical idea, because this is something that women have fought for generations. When you got people talking about freedom, well, to me, freedom means that it is women who control their own bodies, not the government. All right, let me just conclude by telling you what you already know. These are difficult times for our country. But what you also know is this is not the first time in American history that we have had to overcome crises. You know, going back from the American Revolution, and sometimes we forget about this, small group of people living in a colony stood up against the most powerful military force in the world, the British Empire. They beat them. We had people in the abolitionist movement in the 1840s with great courage taking on slavery. You know, we had workers fighting for workers' rights, taking on their bosses, getting shot down, getting jailed. We had women fighting for the right to vote and for other basic rights. We had the gay community standing up and demanding the right to love people who they wanted to love. So we have had to struggle. This country, that's what it is. If you want justice, Frederick Douglass, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing him, but basically what he said, freedom is never given to anybody. It's never given to you. You got to stand up and fight for it. And that's where we are right now. The bad news is we have a demagogue in the White House, somebody who does not believe in democracy, somebody who scapegoats people, tries to divide us up, which is really a very ugly thing to do. You know, to divide us, we're supposed to hate this group of people, we're supposed to hate that group of people, and then we lose our focus on what we should be doing. Instead of hating each other, let's come together and fight for an economy and a government that works for all of us. So the bad news is we have a demagogue as president, but I will tell you, again, from personal experience, just last night, we're in Davenport, Iowa, just, huge turnout all over this country. People demand and want a government that works for all of us and not just a few. They do not want, too many people in Wisconsin and Vermont fought and died to defend American democracy, and we're not going to let Trump or anybody else take that away from us. So we got a lot of work. We've got a lot of work on our hands, but I believe that on almost every major issue out there, the American people are with us. So let's stand up, let us fight back, let us create the kind of economy and government that the American people deserve. Thank you all very much.